There is a kind of exhaustion that has nothing to do with sleep. It doesn't come from working too much or doing too little. It isn't cured by weekends, vacations, or time off. It's the exhaustion of being aware, of waking up and realizing you have to be someone again, of carrying a mind that never fully rests, of continuing day after day, not because you're excited to be here, but because stopping feels impossible. Most people don't have language for this feeling. They sense it quietly, like a background hum that never shuts off. It doesn't look dramatic. It doesn't announce itself as a crisis. It just sits there, heavy and persistent, making everything feel harder than it should. And the strangest part is this: many of the people who feel this aren't unhappy in the traditional sense. Their lives might look fine from the outside: stable routines, functional relationships, no obvious catastrophe. Yet inside, there's a deep, almost physical weariness, the sense that simply existing requires more energy than they have left. This is what psychologists often refer to as existential fatigue. Not sadness, not despair, but a quiet depletion that comes from consciousness itself. Think about what being alive actually demands. Every day, you must manage yourself, your body, your emotions, your reactions. You must make decisions, respond to stimuli, interpret social cues, regulate feelings, carry memories, anticipate consequences. Even doing nothing requires awareness. For most people, these processes fade into the background. They move through life on momentum, routine, distraction. But some people become painfully aware of the mechanics behind it all, and once that awareness clicks in, it doesn't turn off. Suddenly, repetition feels suffocating. Not because life is terrible, but because it's relentless. Brush your teeth, answer messages, eat, work, speak, sleep, repeat, over and over, until one quiet moment arrives where the mind asks a question it can't forget. Is this really it? People who are tired of existing often describe life as something they never agreed to perform, a role handed to them without consent, a script they're expected to follow with enthusiasm they don't feel, so they perform anyway. They smile, they respond, they show up, and every act of pretending drains them a little more. This exhaustion is closely linked to something called anhedonia, the dulling of pleasure. But it's more precise than that. It's not that joy is impossible. It's that nothing feels worth the effort required to reach it. Even enjoyable things begin to feel like tasks, another obligation, another thing you're supposed to care about, another performance of being alive. And beneath that lies something even heavier: depersonalization, the feeling of watching your life instead of inhabiting it, like you're behind glass, observing yourself go through motions that no longer feel real. Your body moves, your mouth speaks, your schedule continues, but you feel distant, muted, disconnected. Trying to reconnect takes energy you don't have. Trying to care feels like lifting weight with exhausted muscles. So you stop trying, not because you don't want meaning, but because the search itself has become unbearable. This kind of exhaustion rarely comes from one cause. It builds slowly, from years of disappointment, from repeated effort without lasting relief, from hoping things will improve only to watch them circle back to the same heaviness. Sometimes it grows out of trauma, not always one catastrophic event, but the accumulation of smaller wounds. Being overlooked, being misunderstood, being valued conditionally. Learning, again and again, that the world keeps moving whether you're okay or not. Sometimes it comes from awareness, from seeing too clearly how systems work, how suffering is distributed, how arbitrary success and failure can be. When the illusion cracks, it's hard to keep playing along with the same enthusiasm. And sometimes it comes from biology. Brain chemistry shifts quietly. Energy disappears without explanation. Existence becomes heavy for reasons that logic can't solve. What makes this state especially isolating is how difficult it is to talk about. If you say, "I'm tired of existing," people hear danger. They rush to conclusions. They panic. They want to fix you immediately. But existential exhaustion isn't the desire to disappear. It's the desire to rest, to stop maintaining, to stop performing resilience, to stop proving that you're okay. So people stay silent, they function, they do what's expected, and inside they carry a weight no one sees. Every morning becomes a negotiation, not dramatic, just heavy, convincing yourself to get up, not because you want to, but because you have to. Every interaction costs more than it should. Every "how are you" demands a lie that drains you further. Tasks pile up, not because they're difficult, but because everything requires effort. Showering, eating, replying, existing visibly. Outsiders mistake this for laziness or lack of motivation. They don't see the invisible labor happening beneath the surface, the constant effort just to remain present. This is not weakness. This is what happens when someone has been carrying too much for too long without true rest. Modern life doesn't leave space for that kind of rest. You're expected to function, produce, respond, adapt endlessly. So people endure, and endurance slowly replaces living. Psychology calls part of this learned helplessness, the moment when effort no longer feels meaningful because it hasn't changed anything before. After enough cycles of trying and disappointment, the mind learns that hope hurts more than numbness. So it chooses numbness, and numbness is exhausting in its own way. What helps is not motivation or pressure or forced positivity. What helps is recognition, being seen without being rushed toward a solution, being allowed to exist at a lower capacity without being labeled broken. Professional support matters. So does compassion. Real compassion, not urgency disguised as care. Sometimes what exhausted people need most is permission. Permission to rest without guilt. Permission to not explain themselves. Permission to exist quietly for a while. Healing doesn't come from grand purpose statements. It comes from small moments that make the present slightly lighter. Warmth, stillness, simplicity. Not because they fix life, but because they soften it. And as permanent as this exhaustion can feel, it isn't always permanent. Meaning can return slowly. Energy can rebuild gently, not through force, but through patience, support, and time. If you're tired of existing, it doesn't mean you're broken. It means you've been strong for too long without relief. You deserve rest that goes deeper than sleep. You deserve to stop performing survival. You deserve to take up space without justification. And if you're watching others, remember that the most functional people are often the most tired. Ask gently. Listen fully. Don't rush to repair what needs to be witnessed first. Sometimes the most healing thing you can offer someone isn't advice or solutions. It's permission. Permission to be tired. Permission to slow down. Permission to simply exist. And for now, that is enough.